But first tonight, as we just told you, the president is scheduled to start speaking this hour from Mississippi. And we expect there will be some news made during that event. But no matter what the president says or doesn't say tonight, many in our managerial class will vehemently disapprove. They despise Donald Trump on principle. They loathe everything about him, from his mannerisms to his NATO policy and everything in between. But underneath it all, what they really hate is the fact that he's a nationalist. And even worse, he admits it.
They have a word. It sort of became old-fashioned. It's called a nationalist. And I say, really, we're not supposed to use that word. You know what I am? I'm a nationalist, okay? I'm a nationalist.
Ooh, he crossed the line there. Nationalist? You can't say that in Washington. It's racist. They'll tell you that from their rigidly segregated neighborhoods. They've got the same demographic mix as they did in 1952. On cable news, meanwhile, the term is basically banned. It's considered a vicious slur.
Nationalist. Use that word. We're going to talk about that word tonight. It is a favorite of the alt-right and is loaded with nativist and racial undertones.
He's weaponized race and sort of nationalism and dog whistles.
You're suggesting there's some kind of dog whistle there.
It is. It applies. It does provoke hate activities.
What are you trying to say as President of the United States, that you're a nationalist? Americans know what that means. It's not even a dog whistle anymore. It's a bullhorn.
Got that? A dog whistle. And in D.C., that's bad. Pretty much everyone there is a cat person, apparently. But what exactly is a nationalist? And why are the people who run our nation so threatened by it? And by the way, if they're not nationalists themselves, what exactly are they? Rich Lowry has thought a lot about all of this. He's editor of National Review, of course. He's also author of the new book, The Case for Nationalism, How It Made Us Powerful, United, and Free. Rich Lowry joins us tonight from Washington. Rich, great to see you tonight.
Hey, Tucker. Thanks for having me.
So I want to put on the screen a quote from your book, a couple of them. I'm going to start with this one. Nationalism, you write, should not be a dirty word, especially in this country, where it has been an indispensable element in the success of our extraordinary centuries-old and still vital and ongoing national project. So it shouldn't be a dirty word. Why is it?
Well, because people misunderstand it, and they're very lazy about it, and they think it's tantamount to fascism or militarism or racism, which is completely false. Nationalism, national loyalty, national feeling, they're very old, they're very natural, they're very powerful. And any attempt throughout history to wipe them out by empires or totalitarian ideologies have always failed. And it's part of the mainstream of the American tradition. And this is what makes all those clips that you started with, Tucker, so ridiculous.
Yes.
You don't get an American Revolution without nationalism. You don't get a U.S. Constitution without nationalism. You don't get victory in the Civil War without nationalism. Nationalism is a thread that runs through Hamilton, it runs through Lincoln, it runs through TR. In other words, you know, monsters of American history.
The whole scope of the American project, really. But you're saying that nationalism, its wellspring is deeper. It comes from human nature, from instinct. People want it everywhere, always.
Yeah, people want to belong. And people naturally group together. And what nationalism is, the basic idea or doctrine that a distinct people, united by a common culture, a common language, want to govern themselves in a distinct territory. And again, this is a very old idea. You know, read the Bible. It's a story of ancient Israel, which is basically a nation. And you know, people in America, they read the Bible. They understood that story. And culture is also very important. A common culture is extremely important to nationalism. And you know, I'm dispirited and alarmed by what we're seeing from the socialists on the other side and Elizabeth Warren with their $50 trillion health care plan. But more sinister and more threatening is the ongoing campaign to destroy the cultural foundations of this country. Its history, its heroes, its common stories and stock of knowledge. And that is what, as conservatives, we have to be focused on, like a laser pushing back against that. They're coming against Thomas Jefferson. They're coming against Thanksgiving, believe it or not, eventually, as you know, a holiday linked with genocide. And they want to make this argue that this nation is rotten to the core. And what's most shameful and despicable, they're trying to teach our children that every single day.
And they're succeeding. So what's interesting is that I hear people who call themselves conservatives, who I think believe they are conservative, argue, and I'm almost quoting now, that America is not a place, it's not a physical reality. America is an idea.
Right.
And you argue, contrary to that, and the Washington Post hated the fact you did this, that America is, there are ideas that underpin America, but it's a place. It's a physical reality. Explain the difference.
Yeah, so ideals are important, obviously. Our founding documents are important, but no one lives in an abstraction. Reality's thicker than that. Nations are thicker than that. And if we didn't have a distinct, bounded nation that was powerful and united and free, our ideals would mean nothing.
That's right.
Absolutely nothing. This is the basis of so much of what has made this country great, that we're an extensive and powerful and united country. So yes, ideals are important, but they're meaningless without that strong buttress of the nation.
So I want to contrast what you just said with the way you say the people who run our country spend their time. And I want to put this on the screen because I think it's really interesting. Elites, you write, spend an inordinate amount of time flying into and out of international airports, attending conferences and business meetings in foreign capitals, often at the same top-notch hotels, interacting with Western-educated elites from other countries who all speak English and the globalized argot of markets and inevitable progress. They are more truly citizens of the world than anyone who used the phrase in past centuries could have imagined. So you're saying that our ruling class has really changed.
Yeah, so the great late social scientist Samuel Huntington pointed out that the business and technological changes in the 19th century, they were nationalizing and created a national market over local affiliations and loyalties. What's happened in the 20th and 21st century is these changes have created kind of a transnational loyalties over national loyalties. And that's a very bad thing. And there's just no such thing as a citizen of the world.
That's right.
That is a myth. When anyone around the world gets in a jam, the world doesn't come to save them. Their country comes to save them. There's no universal nation. There's no universal military. There's no universal language.
It's like having the village raise your kid. Your kid's an orphan at that point.
Yeah.
Rich Lowry, thanks so much. Congrats on the book.
Thanks so much, Tucker.
And I hope it is disseminated far and wide.
Thank you very much.